to Show Dog Prep School's first online Facebook Live class. This is a free class that I'm just going to talk about the process of stacking your dog. But I wanted to do it in a way where people didn't just have to watch me do it. I want to try and help people work through it. So what I'm going to do is talk, demonstrate, and then I'm going to go behind the camera. The reason I don't have the camera on selfie mode is because it flips everything, so that if I'm doing it like this, you'll see it like this. And then you'll wonder, why is she showing the right side of the dog instead of the left side of the dog? It gets really confusing. So the way that the class is going to work is that I will talk a little bit, do a little bit of a demonstration with sometimes a stuffed animal and real dogs, and then have you guys try it. You are welcome to do it alongside me while I do it, and I can sort of talk you through coaching it. And then I'll come and we'll take breaks, and I'll come and just go ahead and look at the screen to see if there's questions or comments or anything. So if you see me missing your question, you might need to ask again, because sometimes the comments get wonky on here. A lot of people did want to do the class and were asking if it's going to be saved, and I am going to be saving it, so people will be able to watch this later on. I'm not going to be getting into how to teach the behavior of stacking your dog, because it's a process, and I do encourage people to really spend the time teaching the behavior, because what happens a lot of the time is people teach the dog sit, they teach the dog a recall, they teach the dog to lie down and stay and do all this stuff, but they don't put as much time in training the show ring behaviors. And I really think that these behaviors deserve the work that we put into other things. But I will give you a couple of tips. One is that all my puppies, even though I know that a dog can learn sit, stand, lie down, all those different behaviors, whatever you teach first and whatever you reinforce the most is going to have the strongest reinforcement history, and that means that that's what the dog is going to give you. That's going to be their default behavior. So I always start out with that default behavior being a stand. So before I start actually working on any other behaviors like sit or lie down or anything like that, I'm going to first get the dog offering me a stand, so that's just coming. Honey, can you check on them? They're getting a little rowdy back there. So train the behavior. And then I recommend strongly, especially if you have a wiggly dog or a young dog or a dog who doesn't like being stacked, start over, train it again, and use my focused hand stack. That is in our training stacking for the show ring, and there's videos of it on the Facebook page and on YouTube. So train that behavior so the dog really truly understands what it is to be stacked, and then to offer you a stack. Because the more hand stacking you do and building a foundation on your hand stack and reinforcing that position, that's going to help build your free stack. So we want the dog to understand the position, have a high rate of reinforcement for it, and a nice reinforcement history, so that they know how to do that behavior and they get rewarded for it. Especially when they're in the ring and you might actually, meaning the handler, if it's an owner handler, or especially somebody who's newer, might get in there and feel stressed and you're not acting normal because you're just nervous. You could have performance anxiety, and that can get the dog stressed. So we want to make sure that they really understand what they're supposed to be doing. And it just sort of is the thing that comes naturally when they're in that environment, meaning the show ring. The other thing I'm going to encourage you to do is to reward good choices. So as a species, we tend to wait for the dog to do something wrong, for the incorrect response, and then punish that out. And it's not it's not because anybody's bad. It's just because that's sort of what we, how we just do things. We tend to look for what isn't right and then try and get rid of that. But what we need to do is look for what's right and reinforce that. So that's going to be our goal. Now, a lot of times people will say to me, she knows what she's supposed to be doing, she just doesn't want to. Or she knows what I want, but she just won't do it. Or she's just being, he's being stubborn, or he's being willful. I hear a lot. All these different things. So my feeling is that when an animal is not responding properly, it is a direct result of the training. It just is. And people will say, well, I know he knows better. And it's like, well, then why isn't he doing it? If he knows and has been trained properly and reliably and with adequate reinforcement, why isn't he doing it? Or if your dog is, you know, sort of not wanting to interact with you and you're trying to get their attention, why? Why is the dog looking for something else in the environment to get, you know, get what they want? So if you're having a problem, assume that the dog doesn't understand it and needs more training, because if you assume that the dog is just being a jerk and doesn't want to do it, then it's going to create issues in the relationship, because now you're going to be frustrated and upset with the dog. So a few things I want to talk about first is holding the lead or the collar. So I'm going to grab a couple leads. I tend to train show dogs on these. This is just a big fat slip, but I like it because the dog can't get its head out. I like it because it's usually different than their everyday collars, so it gives them a feeling of something different. But it doesn't close up and hurt like a chain would. So when I'm teaching a new dog, I want them to first learn how to do things on something that's really comfortable and flexible. So I like to use these. And then I just have this other show lead that I would sometimes use on a smaller dog. And this one is very soft leather and it has a kindness, so this would probably be fine too. But one thing I want to talk about, especially if you're using a slip type of collar, this meaning it can close up, is that what people do a lot, new people, most people who are experienced don't do this, but I have to remind newer people a lot. They will go to stack their dog and they'll hold the lead like this. So they're holding the lead and trying to stack the dog. But if you're holding a slip collar like this, then you're giving the dog a perpetual correction if there's any tension. So the dog is going to feel pressure. And a sensitive dog will likely sit because they're feeling this upward pressure. Dogs who don't like that pressure, you will see them sit or try and pull away or swallow because the owner doesn't even realize that they're doing it, that as they're starting to stack the dog and get nervous and stressed, they're tightening up on this. So the first thing you want to do is not hold on here. I like to take these two fingers. It would be bad if it was just one, but it's these two. So my ring finger and middle finger. And I tend to put it through the collar like this, and then I kind of lock the collar like that so that I can stop it wherever I want it and then just put those two fingers in there and lock it so that I can easily switch. But I can have complete control if I want to give a little bit of leeway and a little bit of slack, I can. If I need a little bit more pressure, if I need to gently use this to get the dog's neck up higher so I can show arch of neck, it's really helpful. I really, really want you guys to practice that. So go ahead and grab your leash, and you're going to, again, here's the lead. You're going to take these two fingers and just put them right in there and just kind of let that hand lock the lead in. See how I can hold it there and stop it? That's what you want to practice doing. And then when I switch, I usually do this. So when you're stacking the dog, you're going to need to get comfortable switching hands. Sometimes when people are learning, this becomes an issue. This hand switch. And a lot of times it's because the dog doesn't know how to be stacked yet. So whenever the owner goes to do that, the dog is fidgeting around. But this is not going to, you don't want to do this. But that's what people will do to avoid switching hands. I will frequently just teach the dog to put his chin in my hand or even just gently hold here. If it's a table dog, I don't do that on the ground, but on the table. Because I would normally have this around my neck and then I would have the dog here, and so I'm able to easily do that if I want to, but I tend to have my hand right in here and then I just switch, boom, boom. But what I don't want you to try doing is just using this one hand to do all these legs. It just, nothing is going to fall where you want, and it's not going to be helpful for you in the end. Now, I don't use food a lot when I'm practicing this except for as a reinforcer. So that means that when I'm teaching a new behavior, to a dog. I may use luring. So luring means that you have food or something and you use that food to kind of get the dogs to follow it. So I may be, using food to lure the dog some, but I don't do that for very long, because what I found is that if I train them by just holding food here and stacking them, I might do that once or twice with a baby puppy or a new dog who's really active. But I'm not going to do that for long, because if you do that, they don't ever learn really to be stacked. They just learn to stay on food. So that if you ever get to a point where you don't want to do that, you'll frequently get posting or the dog offering other behaviors or not sure what you want. That's where the focused hand stack is really helpful, because the food's out there. So they're going to get it, but they're watching it. So they have to wait, let you move something. Good, get a piece of food, let you move something, get a piece of food. And I might have to do a little bit of that with one of my demo dogs, because she hasn't, well, she's probably done this with her breeder, but not with me. Okay, so managing, again, the food. I like to have the food in my pocket, sometimes in my mouth, but in your mouth when you're leaning over, especially a big dog, because you have to lean down, right? They'll see it in your mouth and they might try and grab it. So that's where sometimes I like to have in a pocket or an armband or something like that. If you're doing stacking with a fearful dog, you really want to make sure that you first have them comfortable with all the components. Being on the table if they have to be on the table. Being on the ramp if they have to be on the ramp. Being touched all over. Having stuff moved all around. So if you have any issues like that, you're going to check out From Shy to Showy, and you can still work on the stacking, but they just might not be ready to actually be in the ring quite yet. So when you're moving the front legs, you're always going to move at the elbow. So when I do it with like a dachshund on the table, I'll just usually go like that, or you can go like that. Now this thing, this goat or whatever it is, sheep, has very short legs, like a dachshund. But you're never going to grab at the feet, and I'll demonstrate with a real dog in a minute. But you're going to do it at the upper arm or at the elbow. So you want to not grab the feet. The dogs don't like that. When you're doing the rear, I like to smooth my hands back, and then I'm going to do boom, boom, each leg, one at a time. I try to avoid this, grabbing the whole rear end out from under the dog and pulling it back. They usually don't like that. I might do it with a very, very tiny dog, but I'm going to do it really carefully and be securing the front so I don't pull them off balance. Because a lot of times that's why they post. Owners just throw them up on the table, pull this back, and don't understand why the dog looks horrible up there. So smooth hands, be really aware of what you're doing with your collar. You may have to do some practicing or something in terms of the dog's coat and that kind of thing. So hopefully you guys tried that and that made sense. I'm going to take a break and come and see if there's any questions, and then we're going to go back and I'm going to start really demoing with the dog.
Many.
All right, I'm looking to see if you guys have any questions. Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. This is so good. Okay, I don't see any questions. That's real good. That means we can move on. Okay. So I'm going to start with big dogs. And again, I'm going to demo. I finally have a big dog. I just got a big dog. I've had her for a month, and she's a standard poodle, and I have not done this with her, and I'm sure her breeder has before she decided she could be my pet. So we'll see what happens. But I may have to do a little bit of shaping and moving slowly. So shaping is the process of, instead of just asking the dog, you got to do this whole thing now. This is what it frequently looks like when people train a puppy. I'm going to do all this. The puppy wiggles, knock it off. Knock it off. And they're yelling at the puppy and getting frustrated because they're wiggling. Instead, what I'm going to do is just set the puppy on the table. Good. Mark it and give him a treat. Maybe pet him. Good. I'm just reinforcing the behavior of stillness. Then I might move a leg. Good. And give a treat. Then I might move another leg. Good. Give a treat. And so I'm doing it gradually. And that works really well. And I'll do that a little bit if I have to with her. So one thing I really like to teach, I teach all show dogs this, I teach all dogs this, is a hand target. So a hand target just means that if this is the dog, I say touch, and the dog, bumps his nose into my hand. I call it touch. So that's a really nice behavior. The reason why I always taught it in puppy classes and in dog training classes was because I wanted people to be able to have a way to move their animal around without having to be physical. So if you have a dog who suddenly starts getting guardy on the couch or won't get off the bed, or you can't move him off of something, you could just tell him touch and then have him touch, he jumps down and does it. But the reason why it's so good for show dogs, besides it's great for getting their attention back if they're sort of, get distracted with something, or maybe get a little concerned and they hear something, you can get them back with a hand target. But with big dogs, you can actually use that to guide them into their stand. So ideally with big dogs, they walk into a stack. That doesn't always happen, but that's our end goal, right? Is that they walk into a stack. And I want them at least to walk in with their front proper. Then I can just go back and fix the back legs. And sometimes people will ask me, what's the order of legs? Like they start getting frazzled because they were told you're supposed to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't on purpose have an order other than my routine. So what I think is more important than like I've had people tell me I'm supposed to be walking heel toe and someone videotaped me and I'm not walking heel toe. And I don't think that that's beneficial. If that's not a comfortable way for you to walk, then don't obsess on it and do something that's probably not going to impact your dog's showing and your dog's performance. So I tend to look at the dog and see first if there's anything if I need to fix. If the dog is walked in perfect, then I'm not going to fix anything. If he's walked in and I just need to fix this leg, then I'm going to fix that leg. What a lot of people do who are new, and I think it's what we do. If we're learning something new, then you tend to watch, and I can do that, and then you go to put the dog on the table, and it's like, I see people, like the person doing this is thinking, the handler does that, and that, and that, and that. But when a handler, or when somebody who really knows how they're stacking a dog, they're not doing it just to make sure every foot gets touched. They're doing it to make sure everything's where it should be. Oh, I just need to move that one. There we go. So as far as order, to me, I think I look, and I usually tend to do this leg first, but it's just because I usually have this one holding the collar. So if I have this here, boom, boom. That's what I do? Yep, that's what I do. I go there, and I think I do the other front one. I like to have the front anchored. I was thinking about this the other night, and I was thinking of a way to help people sort of understand like what I'm looking for and when I'm stacking a dog. And I feel like if you think of like this front piece of the dog as number 1, this piece of the dog is number 2, and the head is number 3. So it's kind of like I first need, with most dogs, this piece to be set first, the front, because the front legs are to come straight down underneath the dog. So I want those legs to come straight down. Then I've got my sort of center, right? Then I can go back and move here. Then I can play with neck and head carriage and where I want the head. So you're going to try and think about here, 1, front legs, get this piece set, and then everything gets built around that. The exception to that would be with a lot of giant breeds, like not something giant like, not like a Corso or something that's big but still super athletic and agile, but something like a Newfoundland or an Irish Wolfhound, where backing up is work, where it's a lot of work to just take a step back. Even sitting down looks exhausting. So for those dogs, I will teach them to anchor their rear and then step forward, just because for some of them that's an easier thing for them to do with their bodies. And you really want to make sure that you end with the dog up over his front. So what happens a lot is people get the front legs pretty good, it's good, and then they go back and way overstretch the rear. And that shouldn't happen. If your standard says moderate, then almost nothing should look extreme about it, right? So I'm not going to stack a V-slope way back here when I know it's supposed to be not extreme. It's supposed to be moderate. So you want to be thinking about that, like really, how can you keep the dog over his front? So meaning his front legs not racked back like that. I'll show you with a dog when I get him up here. You'll probably see it because sometimes they'll just do that and then you got to kind of move them over it. That's when food can be really helpful. So if you get the dog stacked and he's kind of posting back just a little bit, sometimes just having food here. And what I do a lot for dogs who do that, especially if the dog is very connected with me, is that I'll actually be out in front. And I do that to a fault with dachshunds because I always see pictures and I'm way out here. But it's because, one, I don't like to have something necessarily behind the dog. I just like it to be just a picture of the dog. But also, I get out there and the dog is really leaning forward because I'm out here like this and then he's wanting to get close to me. So if the dog is a dog that I'm really connected to, he might be looking at this or going back, kind of trying to look at me and make eye contact. So I'm going to be thinking about that. And then again, always being aware of your collar hand. All right, I'm going to just come and see if there's any questions. Then I'm going to get my poodle and we're going to see what happens. Hello, okay. Okay, so Cindy's question, first let me go back and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Next time I'm going to have somebody to be here. You guys, this is going to be taped, so you can all go back and watch it. It's no problem. So Diana said, how do you pick up your dogs to put them on the table? I'm going to demonstrate that in just a minute. Actually, maybe I'll do it real quick with the stuffed one. The way I pick up a dog is like this. My left hand is around the body, and it's supporting the bulk of the weight of the dog. And my right hand is right here on this jawbone, the lower jaw right here. So that the dog's legs are dangling true where they belong. So that when I put them down, they go pretty much where they need to go. Now the exception would be if I'm showing a very tiny dog. Like when I was showing a toy fox terrier for a while, she was so little that you just couldn't. So I actually did pick her up like this, but she was like 3 pounds. She was so little. So that's how I pick them up. Left hand around the body, right hand here. Now, if you're doing a dog like a Frenchie or a pug or one of those brachycephalic breeds, this doesn't work well with them, so with them, I'll put my other hand right here. I personally don't tend to pick dogs up by the tail, but a lot of people do, and I would say just make sure if you're going to pick them up in a way that it could be scary for them, that you just get them used to it early on. Even with my puppies, even though I don't pick up a dog like this, I will do little exercises where I get the puppies used to this, because one day I might have to snatch them up like that. My dogs are going crazy, by the way, so then when I get them to demo, it's probably not going to be pretty. Okay, so I hope that answered that for you, Diana. Vicky said, or Cindy said, hi Vicky, when putting a dog on the table, do you stack the front first or the rear? Usually the front first, but I will say that occasionally, Cindy, like with that little toy fox terrier, it can be beneficial to let the rear feet drop and anchor, and then just pull the front out right where you want it. So I would play with it, and with your Rocket and the Chihuahuas, it might actually be beneficial because they're so little that you can very comfortably hold them like this if they're comfortable with it. And then you can kind of place the rear and then the front. So I suggest that you guys experiment with that because it could be different. I mean, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable so that you can do it quickly and efficiently, and the dog is comfortable when you do it. All right, let's see. Hello, Kathleen. Hello, Angie. Hello, everybody. Okay, so Cameron said, I need help my dog lean into her stack because she posts often, but I also want her to make sure she's holding her tail up, so I am afraid to move in front of her. Any suggestions? I feel, couldn't see the rest of that comment. So basically, for dogs who are doing a lot of posting, usually what I'll do is teach them a lean. And I think that's in there's definitely a YouTube video on it, and it says teaching the lean. So basically I use a platform. With a small dog, you could do it on a table. With a big dog, on some sort of a platform, an aerobic step, a couple of climbs, a stacking box. And I'll actually use food and just teach the dog to just do a small weight shift forward, click and feed, weight shift forward, click. And as soon as I get that like 3 or 4 times, I'll put it on cue. lean, and then prompt it. Feed, lean, and then prompt it. And usually at that point, all the owner has to do is just go lean, and then the dog will lean forward. Yes, you mark and feed. So I actually teach anything I need to change. Like if somebody says, I don't let, like you didn't say this, but somebody might say, well, he always leans back. And I would say, well, what do you want him to do instead? So instead of saying, or instead of looking at it like, I want to not have this, I'm going to say, what do you want instead? So like one person came to me and said, I need him to be more animated. And I said, well, what does that look like to you? Well, I just want him to be more animated. Okay, but I need to know specific things. If you tell me those things, I can train them. And she said, ears up, head tilt. And we trained it in a session, and he finished the next weekend. I mean, that's a true story. So if you just think about what you want, then you're going to have an opportunity, or you're going to be able to really just train what you want, because you're not trying to get rid of something that the dog is already doing. It's going to go away when you train the new thing. All right, so I'm going to get a dog, and here's what we're going to do. I was going to do the big dog first, but my little dog's going crazy in there, so I think I'm just going to do him first. So this is what it's going to look like. I am going to have him on a show lead on the ground. I'm going to pick him up how I showed you. My left hand will be around his body, my other hand will be here, and remember, he is very fired up, so it might not be pretty. Then I'm going to see if I can just place him pretty much where I want him. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to talk you through it, and then I'm going to do it again and talk you through it with you doing it. So let me go get him. So this dog is already finished, and he's pretty close to being done with his grand championship, but he's young. He's only a year and a half old, and he's very sort of wild and crazy and active. So he already knows what he's doing, so I'm not needing to reinforce him with food when I do this, but if I was in the beginning, like with Dolly Parton, the poodle, I'll probably use food with her, because she's not going to have any idea what I want. He does. He's been doing this for a long time. Okay. All right. So here's him in all his craziness. See, I told you he was wild. So first thing I'm gonna do is bend down, and I actually like to put my hand inside the collar, or just get my hand down here or up here. So there's a few ways you can do this. If you pick him up the way I said, then I'm doing this. So I've got my hand under here. Then I'm gonna see if I can drop his front right where it belongs. Now he's sat, so I have to make sure I pull him back up. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so here's a variation on that. You could also just have your hand in here if you could have control still. He's placing his front pretty right, pretty much where I want them, although he keeps sitting. So then all I need to do is slide these legs back. His back leg. What you doing? So you're all ramped up. All right, so grab your dogs. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to do that. Get your dogs, get your show lead, get your equipment. I'm looking for questions. You're very welcome, Kimberly. I'm glad it's helpful. Ellen, I don't know if you can't see, but if you can't see, then hopefully you'll be able to see it on the playback. Kathleen, posting is when, it's like the front legs are supposed to be, look at me, can you see? I'm explaining with my hand, and look, it's making a shadow on the wall. So posting is when, instead of the dog's front legs being right under them, like I want his legs to be like this, right? I want his front legs to be like this. But if I pull him back too far, I wish he wasn't so fired up. He's all been playing with the poodle and now he's all wigged out. But it's like if the front legs are going this way, like that, instead of straight down. The legs should come straight down. And posting is never an issue with Buddy, from what I can see in class. So I'm glad you're asking about it, and I will definitely tell you if I see it, but I've not seen it in him. But I probably have pictures of other Vizslas doing it, because it's a, you know, if it's a dog with no hair, it's just all out there for you to see. You know, you can see you can see how they're stacked. Sometimes hair, coat can hide other things. Okay, I'm looking to see if any questions. Hello, Autumn from Long Beach. Okay, I'm not sure why. Oh, some people, if you're saying you can't see, it's because I'm coming over here and then looking at the questions. So I will be out of frame. So right now it's just the table, but then I come out and just talk because I'm looking at your questions over here. Hi Lola, Bronson likes to jump up when I'm picking him up to the table. Sometimes I will almost drop him. How do I slow him down? Might as well show you that right now since my dog's all fired up. And so basically I would be working on having the dog be calm for standing or for lifting. Let me look and see if you can see the ground from back here. I hope you can. Yeah, you can. Okay, so this is what I would do. Jaeger probably does a little bit of this too. I would do some work where I just, easy, little bit of, so you see that? He didn't get paid because he jumped up. Thank you. I don't pay for that jumping. Thank you. So I would shape it like that. So did you see how when I went to pick him up, he got all, ooh, just all excited? So I'm gonna not pay for that. Anything that's not four on the floor is not gonna be paid for. Good. Then I would start doing that. Then I would do a little bit of a lift, put him down and give a treat, that kind of thing. But if he's wanting to get up, then I would definitely not reinforce that by putting him on the table and feeding him. And then if he's sort of a little anxious, sometimes we just don't pick him up the right way and they're just not comfortable with it. I had a Pom that was really little and he had, you know, trachea issues, and I think breathing was a concern for him. And with him, I had to really let him know I was gonna pick him up. So do something that lets the dog know it's about to happen. Maybe you put your hand under here, and if he jumps, I wouldn't pick him up until he's settled. And then I would just slowly shape the behavior. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we've got some questions. So I'm back here again. You guys can't see me. That's so weird because I can see the whole thing on here, but maybe part of it's out. Okay, so Amy said, any tips for a pup that trains well but refuses food in the show ring? I would say, can you pick him up where we can see what it looks like? If a dog won't eat food in the show ring, it's either afraid, overstimulated, over-aroused, not hungry, or the food's not good enough. Those are the only reasons a dog who always eats won't eat. So usually a dog is worried or stressed at the show. That's usually why they won't take food. Sometimes it's just that they're overwhelmed and excited, but most of the time it's a concern thing. And from shy to showy, one of the first things that I teach and have people work on is, you know, testing out what the dog's emotional state is. Can the dog eat food? Can the dog hear you? Can the dog respond to known cues? And is he trying to escape it all? So I would be looking at all those pieces, not just the food piece. The dog is willing to play, because Dogs that are worried will sometimes still eat food, but they won't play if they're worried. Okay, so I don't know why it wasn't in frame, because it seemed to be for me. So I'm just gonna, I hope this is in frame. This is how I would pick the dog up. See how the front drops? Boom, right where it goes. And then I can reposition a leg if I need to. And if the dog sits, sometimes the dog sits on the table. It's not a big deal. You just have him stand back up. But don't get frustrated and just yank up the whole rear, because they don't like that. And that is what frequently gets the dog really wigged out and uncomfortable. So let's do that together again. You have your lead if you're doing a table dog. I like to, as soon as I go to pick the dog up, wrap the lead around my neck. So the lead is already around my neck when I'm picking the dog up. Let's pretend he was lower. I would just put my hand around him like this, and my other hand like this. So the bulk of the weight is here in this hand. So that when I go to set him down, boom, I can just set him down. Good, he stayed standing that time. Set him down, slide your hand down, either here, I usually do it like this, like that. But you can also just do it at the upper arm, like that. That side if I need to. Slide my hand back. And then frequently again, I'll get out in front of the dog. That's a good boy. Where's your tail? Where's your tail, mister? Okay. Can you guys let me know if that made sense and if you could see that? If you're standing toward the outside. Oh, I see what you mean. I'm gonna go like this and see if this helps. Do you think it's necessary to take a choker off to show the neck? Is that better, Cherie? Goody. Yay. Good. We're able to see the whole frame, but we're chrome casting on a TV in case that helps anyone. Thanks, you guys. Okay. No, I'll show you what I like to do. Oh, I should go get a wiener dog out for this because we do frequently show neck on that. I'm just gonna let him do this what he wants. So there are some breeds that you take the collar off, right? But if you wanna just show the neck, and I just have recently, I think in the handling class, I have a video of this because someone with a basset hound said, I cannot show the neck and hold up the tail and do all this stuff, and then I'm afraid the judge doesn't see his beautiful neck. So what I told her was, stack her dog like she does. This was a basset, not a Louchin. So have her stack the dog, right? So this is how she wants to do it, so she can hold the tail. And then, when the judge comes over to examine the dog, I have her go out in front, pull the basset's ears forward like this, and take a hold of the collar at the same time. You can't, this is a dog with a lot of hair, but if I wanted to show coat, I could just do that, and it would just, show neck. So what I would do is just right when the judge is, the judge comes over and starts the face, and when I go to get out of the way, I'm gonna pull the ears forward. I don't know what breed you have, but then pull the collar forward so you can see the neck. And I would want to have a collar that pretty nicely goes with the dog, so blends in nicely to the dog's coat and or was really small. Okay, I'm coming back to look, and then in a minute I'm going to get the poodle. Okay, I'm glad you could see it. Okay, so I think I'm going to put him up and then get her. I'll put him in the bedroom. I'll put him in the bedroom like this. Switching out dogs. I'll be right back. Practice while I go do this. So you're gonna see a different setup for the poodle because, again, I don't know if she's gonna know how to do this. So I'm gonna be using this lead with her because normally she wears a collar and a leash. And I'm gonna put some treats out just in case I need them because you might get a little bit of a demonstration on the focused hand stack because I don't know what she's gonna do and I really don't want her to be posting back. Now, if I'm doing this right here, do you guys feel like you can see me? You can, right? I'm just gonna not have her too far that way. There's a bunch of treats here. I'm gonna go get her, we're gonna see what happens. Going with the same thing, I'm just gonna kind of walk her into it. Now, because she doesn't know, I'm gonna be giving her treats. If your dog knows how to do this, you don't have to treat at each of these steps. Dolly! Dolly! All right, let's see about this collar. I know. Easy, easy, let's not pull on it. See, she's even coughing. She doesn't even, it's not even like really tight on her. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can just, I'm already gonna have my hand in this collar like I talked about. Hi, that's very cute. So I'm just gonna see if I can get her to walk up and good, kind of follow my hand. Now you can see she's all wiggly, so she's gonna need to be rewarded a few times just for being still. One thing we don't think about is that I'm going to start with that foot. So that means I'm going to have to switch hands. She's going to be probably obedience and rally. So she's offering 6, which is fine because that might happen. And you're just going to have the dog, just no big deal, just standing back up. So now this hand's going to go here. I'm going to reposition a foot. Good job. So I'm rewarding her at every piece because I just don't know how much she actually knows. Right. Dolly, you made that look so nice and easy. So, again, I'm going to see if I can just use my hand and not just, good. So she's doing good on her hand target, so she knows how to do that. If I have to physically move the dog, it's going to be gentle. A lot of people get frustrated, they swing the dog around all rough, and they don't like that. And if they don't like it, the stack is not going to look good. Good. Okay, so once the dog is in the stand, your right hand goes into the collar, locking it. Left hand slides down for a big dog, either here at the elbow or at the upper arm here. For her, this works good right now. Right hand goes into the collar. Left hand goes into the collar. Right hand fixes the right front foot. I'm gonna give her a cookie for that. Right hand goes back into the collar. Still never create, it's not this. I want to make it comfy for her. So she looks pretty. Slide your hand back. Take a hold of the hock. I might be too far back. Somebody said I was too far back there. Let's see if that's better. Boom. Boom. Slide back. There. Well, that's too far. Good. Okay, good girl. Okay, I'm going to come over and I want you guys to try that and I want you to see if, tell me if you have any questions. Okay. If the dog is trying to put the lead in their mouth, so again, this is one of these things. Hold on. If you're going to work over there, I'm sorry. I'm trying to see the questions. Okay. You're able to see. Okay. So I want to address when the dog is trying to put the leash in the mouth. Oh, I wonder if Kelly Hawtrey's watching this. because she has a Saint Bernard that used to do that all the time. Usually what I'll do is try and give the dog a lot less leash. So I would, for one, I would reward the dog every time they're not doing it. And this is the thing, this is exactly the thing I was talking about that people cannot or just don't think to do. They just say, the dog has a leash in his mouth, I don't want that. And it's like, but what do you want? Well, the answer is like, well, duh, I want the leash not in his mouth. Okay, so when the leash isn't in his mouth, he's gonna be rewarded. That means every time you take a step, if the leash isn't in his mouth, you're rewarding him. The other thing that I'll have him do is really gather the leash up close, so it's right here. Come here, doll. So it's right here, close. I like to show bigger dogs that way anyways, because I just feel more comfortable and like I have a little bit more control. So yeah, less sleep. The other thing that you can do, especially if you don't use a metal collar, is to put a metal collar in between the collar and the lead, because frequently dogs won't mouth metal. They don't like to do that. So that's when I'll sometimes, it's an aversive. I mean, they don't like it. That's why I'm doing it, but I feel comfortable with it. I don't think it's hurting them, so I don't mind doing that to discourage that. But I'm going to reward them a lot when they get it right and they don't chew. Okay. Good, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Becky said, I'm a newbie showing Mastiffs. Do you have any suggestions to help me set my dog above the others? Maybe a trick to show a little extra expression, or how to nail a free stack on such a stubborn... I can't see all these comments. When it shows up on here, I can't see the whole comment. So the answer is no. I can't tell you a trick because I haven't seen the dog. And the only way I can really say, do this is if I see the dog. So a lot of times someone will come to class and they'll have a dog and say, how can I make him look better? And I can see that the dog's got a spectacular head. So I say, make sure that head shows all the time. Show off that piece. And if there's something that's not so good, downplay that piece. But things like a happy attitude, expression, having the dog be able to look at you when you say, Dolly, and they look at you, teaching things like a head tilt, all of that can be helpful. But really, if you're new, then you should really be on the average of a week. If you're showing regularly every week, read your breed standard. And what I encourage people to do is just look up, what are the words that they see over and over and over and over and over? In the Lao Chen, it's lively, it's bright. They're happy little dogs. And so if you see one that isn't that way, that's not good, right? We're looking for, you are a very good girl. We're looking for a lively little dog. So I'm gonna make sure that I showcase that piece. If you have a Corso, you wanna show muscle and strength and power. I don't want that dog moving like a standard poodle or an Afghan hound. So you wanna find, the essence of your breed. What gives your breed type? What gives your dog, what makes a Mastiff a Mastiff? And then learn that dog's strengths and weaknesses, and then present the dog to show off the strengths and downplay the weaknesses. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions here. What if the dog slides its front foot back while you are stacking the backs? How do you present that? I was in the perfect spot, Cherie, and then I moved. I was trying to put the lead in their mouth. I already addressed that. Dolly looks great. Do you think the 2 fingers and the collar are enough to keep the head still? Most of the time I do. So I'm trying to figure out so if the dog slides its front foot back, I don't know how many of you saw this, but when I was demonstrating with the stuffed dog, I was saying that if, in general, like if you look at this dog and you think about setting her up, I'm going to start teaching it this way to make it easier for people. I want you to think of the dog in 3 pieces. 1, 2 is the rear, and 3 is the head. So the first thing I have to do is one, set this front straight down coming out of the dog's body. I'm just giving her a lot of treats because she's being a real good sport. She doesn't know what we're doing. Then I'm going to get this part set. Now, if I come back here, now this is what I wanted to tell you. She's not very big, but I don't show big dogs. Frequently when someone's showing a really big dog, this is what they do. They go back and see how they pull the dog back because they're just not big enough. So if you go to stack the dog and you accidentally put pressure on this lead, this dog will yield to any lead pressure. And I didn't teach her that. She's 9 months old, but my husband even like took her for a walk, and she, you know, see the slightest bit of pressure, that was just like 2 fingers moving slightly this way. She yields to it. So if I were showing this dog, stand. She says, you didn't teach me that yet. This way, come here, good girl. If I was gonna set her front and then go back and set her rear, if I was pulling her collar back, see how that makes her set back? So you need to make sure your right hand holding the lead plants. It anchors so it's not pulling the head back. And if you can't reach, practice going underneath here at the stifle. So if you're going over, I usually go here or here. I tend to do it this way. But you can also go underneath here, and then that might help you with that. I hope that made sense, Angie. Let's see. Overexcited dog will not keep front feet still. Tammy, I'm going to recommend the focused hand stack. That's the only way I know to teach it really well without making it frustrating for the dog. It is the focused hand stack. It's in the training stacking for the show ring. It's on YouTube and on this Facebook page, I'm sure. And I'll post the video again. My dog free stacks well, but is not food motivated or showy when it comes to temperament. He's mellow. That's okay. Free stacks are great. Danielle asked, how can I train my standard poodle to keep his free stack more consistent? Do you mean to offer you free stacks more reliably? If that's what you mean, then I would just train it really well and then put it on a verbal cue so that the dog really understands how to do it. Any other questions? I'm going to do it one more time with Dolly, and then we're going to wrap up. Can't believe this went on an hour. My poor husband's sitting here waiting for me to be done. Because I said if there was more than 30 people who watched, we were going to open a bottle of wine. And there was like 140 at one point, which is awesome. Okay, so walk her into it. Right hand in the collar so my left hand can reposition this foot. You're all wonky. There we go. Now, right hand in the collar to do this foot. Right hand in the collar, left hand slides back to reposition this foot. Boom. Can I do that? Very good girl. Very good. All right. So, perfect. Perfect. Okay. You guys, thank you so much for watching. We will do more of these. I will be saving this, so it will be available to rewatch. There are going to be more of them. There's probably going to be some more Facebook Live classes that are actually classes that you sign up for, and we'll probably have more weeks in them and stuff like that, but I wanted to test out this format and see how it works. And I also just wanted to give people an opportunity to see me and how I teach and what it looks like. It doesn't always look like my living room, but a lot of the times it does because I don't have a training studio anymore, so I usually just do stuff here. But I sometimes do it outside if the weather's nice and it's light out. Please check out Show Dog Prep School if you haven't already. We have a lot of great classes on there by wonderful instructors. We also have webinars. We have a mentor program, so if you need even more coaching from me, you basically get me. I mean, I'm very good about responding to people. Everything's done through a Facebook group, except it's not. A lot of people just message me or email me. They're more comfortable sharing things privately and talking privately, and I'm fine with that. So we can do it that way too. If this was helpful, please let me know. Like our page, Show Dog Prep School, and turn on the notifications. Look at her foot. Her paw is on my foot. I love this dog. I've only had her for a month. I love this dog. I lost my train of thought. Like our Facebook page, turn the notifications so you see them all, because sometimes you might miss stuff. I try to share a lot of articles and just, training videos, tips, all kinds of different stuff, just to, help people be better at this. My goal is really to help people. Can you take the poodle for me? To help people feel comfortable showing their own dogs, or even if you're not showing your dog, to prepare your dog for your breeder or your handler or someone else to show. There's nothing wrong at all. In fact, it's a good thing to hand a handler or a breeder or a friend who's going to show your dog a well-trained dog who understands what to do. So I had fun doing this. Dolly now knows how to stack. Thanks you guys so much for coming. Let me know how you liked it, and let me know if you'd like to see more, and check out Show Dog Prep School. Probably won't have the winners class on tomorrow night since I did this tonight, but normally I do a Wednesday night demo thing. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see some of you guys in class.